Hi, it's Jeff.
And Denise from Mousesteps.com.
And this is episode number 11 of Mousesteps Weekly.
Sponsored by Theme Park Connection in Winter Garden, Florida.
And Maple Leaf Tickets in Kissimmee, Florida, our official ticket agency.
And where did we go this week?
Finally, back to the Magic Kingdom.
Who knew it had been a month since we've been there? We
Almost.
used to be there like the last time we were there was for the Casey Jr. Splashin'. So.
Right, so it's been a while and it was great to be back. And first we went to see Dumbo. Actually, the second spinner, the new counterclockwise spinner.
We hadn't seen it yet working, and this is we're heading into the new interactive queue, which we also haven't seen.
Right, this is the standby queue, and they also have a fast pass, which you
have to go to PhilharMagic to get that fast pass.
Correct, and if you do the fast pass, you don't get to go into this playground, the interactive queue we're going to check out.
But you kept saying you overheard kids who really wanted to stay there.
Well, let's not jump ahead of ourselves here. But
and some of this signage supposedly is very new. Like, this has been open, I think, a few weeks now.
Right. Well, right now you're in the delightfully air-conditioned tent already, so at least you're out of the heat. We rode Dumbo quite a few times last year.
Oh, too much.
And we waited in the very, very hot outside queue with no conditioning of any kind. So already, to me, I'm liking this. Although I think we're going to have different opinions.
We do have differing opinions on this.
But to me, I do not forget the sweltering heat of last year. So I don't care how loud all this is. I am happy to be inside. But anyway, so what you do is you go in here, you wait in a very short line, and they will give you one of these. It's
a pager.
Yes, a pager.
And I like having the pager. There are a few things I like about this. It's the pager and the air conditioning. That's what I like.
Well, and I appreciate the theming of it.
And the theming.
And look see, your target audience is loving it, though. Your target audience is having a great time. That's one thing I did notice.
I'm not the target audience.
Correct. Well, neither am I. And here is another reference, like in the
Firehouse
Splash and Soak.
+2, and that's Ward Kimball.
Yeah, he looks a lot like a Ward Kimball with those round glasses from the Ward's later days. But it looks like they're putting out a fire. You know, fires sometimes come around these circuses, I guess.
There is some little nice artwork in here, and again, it is themed nicely. But the lights and the sounds and all the kids just sort of drove me batty.
Well,
I know you did. I like the air conditioning.
I will.
I like the air conditioning.
I think that's what they're going for. And here's Dumbo and Timothy Mouse flying around. And every few minutes, the lights kind of dim, and Timothy will make a statement like, "It won't be long now, and you can go on the ride with Dumbo," something like that.
And it didn't take us long. We only were in line a total of about, when you're outside and it says 25 minutes, the 25 minutes includes everything.
Right.
So it took us a few minutes to walk inside, and then a total of we were probably about 20 minutes total, including inside here.
But that's my point. I mean, I don't know if you heard it, but I honestly heard some kids, when their buzzer went off, say they don't want to go on Dumbo. They'd rather stay here and play. They, forget about Dumbo.
You know what
I have never heard that. Did not happen in the outside sweltering heat Dumbo line.
But you know what I said?
I think they are correct. They did a good job.
I said, get me out of here.
Right. Well, we did find the evacuation door.
And there's an area in the back, which I'm sure you will get, that's much quieter and not all the lights and everything. So I would sit there, but I wouldn't want to be in there like an hour.
Yeah, I would suggest, to get the full experience of this, watch our other video in the show notes that has full sound, and turn it up as loud as it goes, and put on some headphones, and you will get the full experience of what Denise is talking about. It is really loud, but again, it doesn't bother me. I thought it was fun. She thought it was too hectic, but we both agree it's nice to be out of the heat.
And it's not, in the back there's all that nice, it's almost like a whole bunch of seats, and that would have been nice, but we were taking pictures.
Oh, look, it's time to go. It's time to leave the fun of the playground.
Get me out of here.
And then they go into a very short queue. Here's a queue, and you can either go right to the number, I'll call it spinner number 1, the first one to open, or left to spinner number 2, which is this one, the newer one, the counterclockwise one, like the original Dumbo was.
And it is a beautiful, I think both of the Dumbos were done beautifully, certainly not much nicer than the the Dumbo was before.
Well, I like water. I like the fact they have water in the artwork. There is no Timothy Mouse on the top of these dueling Dumbos, but you will see Timothy. Actually, you can sort of see Timothy right there to the right. But we'll get a better shot of him.
And you can see all these trees. Like, you need a good hurricane to get a good view now of Fantasyland.
We have a good friend, Mr. Boutet, that would love the tree. He would be. He already said he was happy to hear the trees being back.
It's like impossible to get pictures from Dumbo now.
But you could see what's going on. I think it's going to work when everything is done, and I don't think they design it so we can go take pictures.
No.
So,
but they did before.
And here comes a better view of Timothy Mouse.
Believe and soar. And you mentioned before that has a feather instead of a whip.
Right. Back in the old days, he used to have a whip in his hand. And I don't know what he would be doing with such a thing, but I think the feather is probably a lot nicer.
I wouldn't know on either of them because I don't think I've ever seen Dumbo.
Well, we'll definitely have to change that. We'll have to dig that out and watch it. So that was our thoughts on the new Dumbo. And here we have more of Fantasyland.
And this is where the Seven Dwarfs mine train will be.
Yeah, if you look through the skeleton of the show building, you can actually see the ride tracks being put in.
This is probably the most exciting part of the new Fantasyland project for me.
And for me as well. I look forward to it. After the other Snow White attraction going away, I hope there's some little tributes or something cool like that.
Well, I wish they had kept both. Yeah. I think that would have been nice. And there's Prince Eric's castle is very hard to see now. When you're out in the, where we can walk in Fantasyland, it's not so easy to see.
And you won't see it at all. I mean, once they build the mountain, sort of the over that whole structure, you will not be able to see that at all. So I think that'll be that'll be kind of cool.
And there we're looking back into Storybook Circus.
Just to give an idea of where we are, that was the Splash and Soak, and this, what appears to be a tent, is actually rumored to be a food location.
Right. I mean, we don't know for sure. It's going to look like a yellow tent, at least from the map that we saw.
Right.
And right here, the red tent is going to be Pete's Silly Sideshow, and that's the smaller of the two tents. And then what used to be County Bounty will be Big Top Souvenirs.
Right, and that's this greenish one, the former County Bounty. The red tent was hard to see. It was in the back, but I think we've showed it other times, so... And there, of course, is the skeleton for the Seven Dwarfs mine train. You just like it when I say skeleton.
Yes. And there's the Beast Castle, which looks pretty nice in the distance. And Maurice's cottage.
Very detailed, very, very detailed work there.
I like the roof. I like the whimsical nature of the roof.
And this, I believe, is the closed facade to the Snow White Scary Adventures.
You believe or you know it?
I know. I actually know that to be true, but I wanted to make sure I was right there.
That was a disappointing closure. I'll still say that. It was.
But you'll have princesses.
Yay. Well, hopefully they'll make it nice.
Yes.
And I mentioned earlier that the Dumbo Fast Passes are now at Mickey's PhilharMagic, so you might want to head over there before you head over to Dumbo.
And you can also get Winnie the Pooh Fast Passes from this area as well.
50-minute wait time on Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, it was a busy day. But these will both be temporary, and I'm sure they'll come up with some solution eventually.
They will. And here we are back in Fantasyland, and we're going to be looking at the castle walls, and where we'll be able to walk through to get to the new Fantasyland.
Yeah, it's kind of nice where they'll sort of separate it. The Fantasyland forest area from the rest of Fantasyland.
One of the other more interesting aspects for me of the new Fantasyland is that you'll be able to walk through Belle's Village. And we watched the Beauty and the Beast movie again this year, and just to know you can go into Gaston's Tavern and really feel like you're almost walking through the movie set. The animated movie set, I think, is going to be pretty cool.
I agree, and I can't wait till later this year to check it all out. Speaking of checking things out, what do we have here?
This is the Grand Floridian, where the DVC villas are being built apparently very quickly.
Yes, very quickly. And we noticed, again, we haven't been to the kingdom in a while, and of course, a nice little tradition on the way to the kingdom is breakfast at the Polynesian Resort.
And we had Tonga toast, and some people don't know you can get it at Captain Cook's, and that's where we always get our Tonga toast.
It is delightfully good. But anyway, back to this. When we were taking the boat over to the kingdom, we noticed the change in the waterway. Where the island is, you'll see the island over here to the right in a minute. They have this whole area blocked off by these yellow floats. So the boats now have to go over and around to the right of the island. You cannot go to the left of the island anymore. So that was definitely a change since the last time we were there.
Well, we aren't sure how long that's been there. We have been to Disney's Polynesian Resort in the meantime over the last month.
See, there's a boat going around the island.
Yes. So I'm not sure how long that's been there, but certainly the villas are probably going up quicker than I remember Disney's Contemporary Resort, the Bay Lake Tower, or Kidani Village over at Animal Kingdom going up.
Right, and at least this has been announced. Unlike, remember the days of the Contemporary? Pay no attention to that giant building
being built.
So, and now it's time for our vintage segment. This is the Main Street Electrical Parade at the Magic Kingdom, and it was recorded in 1991. Here is a float you don't see anymore.
No, is that the Blue Fairy?
Blue Fairy. And these are just some clips of segments that are no longer in the current Main Street Electrical Parade. What you're seeing now is actually the original version of the Main Street Electrical Parade before it was sent to Euro Disney, Disneyland Paris, and later retired.
And this is a parade I grew up on. There's a lot of big Spectro fans, and maybe it has to do with I grew up with this parade in the 70s and 80s, but the Main Street Electrical Parade is still my favorite parade.
Yeah, I think a lot of things, when you grow up with it, it sticks with you, like music and parades and and many things.
We'll say nighttime parade, though. Sensational in California is pretty awesome.
And that's new, though. That's very new.
That is new. And you can see on here the old style Walt Disney World logo, which is still a favorite of mine.
Yeah, this was a wonderful parade. Do you remember these guys?
I don't remember them, and maybe it's because I see the soldiers, the toy soldiers, so often in the Very Merry Christmas Party parade that I don't really remember them here.
And how cool was it to be able to see them in the summertime all around in this little Babes in Toyland segment of the parade? So I have to admit, I sort of forgot about the fact that they were in the parade until I started watching these videos all the time. But yeah, that was a very nice. And here is another lost float.
It's a Small World. It's a Small World segment.
That is correct. That is correct. And this float, they did have a Small World float in the California version, which also went away.
And I remember that one.
But and there was actually not just one float. I think there were 2 or 3 floats. We'll see them all. And it was very, very cool to have. I mean, but again, you can also see it's very flat. It's very one-dimensional. So it's sort of one of the old style floats, and maybe that's why they did away with it.
And there's the, and which is this float here?
This is more Small World. Like I said, I think there's 2 or 3 floats that make up this whole Small World segment.
Oh, and I
look
see
at they have
dolls.
real dancing dolls. But the float itself is sort of flat, but again, it's nice where they have the moving figures inside. So very, very good to see that.
And the footage looks nice, very clear, and but I'm really, it's always fun to see what I haven't seen in many years.
Do you remember? Well, I guess you said you did remember the Small World segment.
I do, not as much as some segments, but yes. I remember the Blue Fairy more than anything because I think the Blue Fairy just left not that long ago.
Right, that was in the California Adventure version of the Main Street Electrical Parade for the first year, I think. And then they switched it over to with the new soundtrack, and then they put in the Tinkerbell float to start the parade, so there was no more Blue Fairy.
And Tinkerbell started in California as well.
Right. That whole, what you see now here in Florida was originally started for a season at California Adventure.
And I remember seeing it there as well.
And over there is the bacon float. We love the bacon float in the background. So there is another episode of Mousesteps Weekly. Thanks very much for listening.
And that was quick. Sometimes it takes us forever to get through it, but very quick this time. Theme Park Connection and Maple Leaf Tickets, 2 of our sponsors.
Yes, be sure to patronize our sponsors and have a great week.